Ilara was certain that her insecurities and awkwardness would condemn her to eternal loneliness. However, her greatest enemy, her own fear, was powerless against the calm strength and tenderness of a simple cowboy who saw something in her that she herself could not see. Will she be able to overcome her inner demons and embrace a love that seemed so unreal? Keep an eye on the story, as the epiphany and self-discovery will leave you captivated. Don't forget to subscribe and like to stay updated on future stories. Ilara, a new life, a new beginning. Ilara Reed inhaled the clean, dry air, scented with sun-heated dust and distant pine trees. She stood on the porch of a small, old house she'd inherited, watching the sun slowly dip toward the horizon, painting the vast Montana landscape in shades of orange and purple. The move from bustling Boston to this sleepy town of Blackwood Falls wasn't just a change of address. It was an escape. An escape from prying questions, from pitying glances, and from herself, from the person she had been there, unnoticeable, lonely, and completely lost in a world where everyone else seemed so confident and experienced. Her main goal was to fix up the house and sell it to get funds for a new start, wherever that might be. But as she sorted through boxes covered in a thick layer of dust and tried to deal with the non-functioning plumbing, the first local attraction burst into her quiet life: Jackson Jack Cole. He appeared in his beat-up pickup truck, wearing a wide-brimmed hat that hid kind eyes and in worn but clean jeans. He wasn't a Hollywood movie star, but in his posture, in his calm manner of speaking, there was a sense of strength and reliability. Jack was Ilara's neighbor, owning a ranch on the other side of the field, and, as it turned out, he was the only one who lived nearby. Jack taking off his hat as she steps onto the porch. "Good morning, Miss Reed. I saw you arrived. Thought you might need some help." Ilara awkwardly, "Thank you, Mr. Cole. I can manage." Jack smiling gently, "Jack, please. And if you need anything, I'm always here. My number is in the directory. Or you can just holler a little louder." He turned to head back to his pickup but stopped and looked back. Jack, a thoughtful pause, a small smile, "And you can just call me Jack. It's how we do things around here." Over the next few days, Ilara tried to fix up the house, but every step was met with a new disaster. A pipe burst, a piece of plaster fell off, the old ladder broke. She felt more and more worthless and helpless, and at some point, standing in the middle of the mess, she couldn't hold back her tears. She felt like she couldn't even manage something as simple as home repairs. Her past, where she couldn't find her place or build relationships, seemed to be haunting her here, in the wilds of Montana.
I ask you to like and subscribe to the channel, so you will help me in motivation to make such great stories for you, and I will see that you like them. Enjoy watching, everyone.
That evening, she finally called Jack. She had no other choice. He arrived instantly, without any questions. After a quick but professional assessment, he calmly got to work. He worked quietly, meticulously, ignoring her embarrassment and awkwardness. Ilara sat in the old kitchen, watching him, and gradually her tension eased. Jack didn't judge, he didn't pity her, he just did his work. He was the embodiment of the confidence she so desperately lacked. When the faucet was fixed and the pipe replaced, he turned to her and saw the tear stains on her face. "Jack," softly, "everything okay?" Ilara nodded, but then, giving in to an impulse she couldn't explain, she confessed. Ilara whispering, her voice trembling slightly, "Jack, I don't know how to do anything. I can't even fix a faucet. I just can't do anything right." Jack sat down across from her, his eyes meeting hers. There was no pity or mockery in them, only a calm understanding. "Jack, sincerely, Miss Reed, that's not true. Skills come with experience. What's important isn't what you can do now, but that you're willing to learn." And in that moment, feeling her most vulnerable, she suddenly realized she had nothing to lose, and as if shedding a heavy burden, she blurted out, Ilara, barely audible, looking down at her hands, "You know, I've never been in a relationship or ever been kissed." The words were barely a whisper, and she instantly regretted her honesty, dropping her gaze. In her mind, she was already picturing his surprise, and then his pity. Jack was silent for a few seconds. To Ilara, it felt like an eternity. She was already preparing to get up and run away when he finally gave a quiet laugh. Not mockingly, but warmly, as if he had heard something very sweet. She looked up at him. Jack took off his hat and placed it on the table. His smile, which she was seeing for the first time without the shadow of his hat, was disarming. It was a little shy, but genuine. Jack whispering, his voice as soft as a summer breeze. Well then, we'll just have to start with that. And we'll start gently. He extended his hand to her. She took it, feeling his warmth transfer to her, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel broken. She felt seen. And that was the beginning. Jack's hand was warm and rough with calluses, but Alara felt not its roughness, but its reliability. This touch became an unexpected anchor in her chaotic life, turning everything upside down. Instead of the pity she had expected, she received acceptance. That "will start gently" didn't sound like a promise of romance, but a promise of care, a willingness to look after her without rushing or pressure. It was exactly what she needed in that moment. From that evening on, their relationship changed. Jack was no longer just a neighbor offering help. He became part of her new life. He came over every day after working on his ranch to help her with the repairs. He didn't ask about her past, didn't push for revelations. He was just there. He taught her how to hold a hammer, explained how to properly apply spackle, and patiently showed her how an electric jigsaw worked. Under his guidance, Alara, who had recently felt so helpless, suddenly discovered she was capable of more. She wasn't just fixing a house, she was piecing together her own confidence. They spent their evenings sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. These moments were a new and surprising experience for Alara. In Boston, she was used to hiding in her small apartment, avoiding contact with people. Here, in Blackwood Falls, she didn't want to run away. She felt safe. Their conversations were simple and unhurried. He told her about life on the ranch, about his horses, and how he learned to handle tools from his father. She, in turn, shared small details from her past life, about the book she read and her work in a small library. She wasn't yet ready to talk about her fears, but she knew he was ready to listen. One evening, after they had finished painting the old fence, Jack invited her to a small local event, the annual town fair. Alara hesitated. Her experience with public places was extremely limited, and she was afraid that her awkwardness would show again. Alara softly, I don't know if I can. Jack, as always, didn't push. Jack gently, it's up to you, Alara. No pressure. But it'll be fun, lots of food and live music. I think you'll like it. People here are simple. His calmness and lack of pressure were the deciding factors. She decided she had to try. She wanted her new life to be truly new, without old fears and limitations. She put on the only dress she had brought with her, a simple cotton one with a floral print, and when she came out onto the porch, she saw Jack was already waiting for her. He was, as usual, in jeans and a shirt, but he looked impeccable. In his eyes, Alara saw something more than just admiration. It was respect. At the fair, Alara felt her world expanding. She met other residents of Blackwood Falls, an elderly couple who baked the most delicious pies, the local sheriff, who turned out to be a good-natured giant, and young guys who participated in the rodeo. She laughed, ate cotton candy, and even tried her hand at shooting at cans, to her surprise hitting several times. Jack was there, but he didn't coddle her, he gave her space. He just watched, occasionally giving her encouraging smiles. The key moment came when a slow song began to play. Jack approached her, and, gently taking her hand, asked, Jack with a soft smile, want to dance? Alara felt a lump in her throat. Dancing. It was something she had never done. She was afraid she would look silly, that she would stumble or step on his foot. All the worst-case scenarios flashed through her mind. This was the first serious internal conflict since her move. She felt her old fears returning, and for a moment, she wanted to run away. Alara muttering, Jack, I don't know how. He smiled again, that same kind and calm smile. Jack reassuringly, I know. But I do. And I'll lead. He gently pulled her by the hand, and she, as if in a trance, followed him. On the dance floor, he placed his hand on her waist and took her other hand in his. Her heart hammered like crazy. He began to move slowly, and she instinctively followed him, feeling clumsy and awkward. But Jack didn't pay attention to it. He just slowly twirled her, whispering simple instructions in her ear. Jack softly, right foot, left. Now back. Don't look at your feet, look into my eyes. Alara, obeying, looked up and saw such depth and sincerity in his gaze that all her fears, all the despair she had felt because of her incompleteness, suddenly vanished. She no longer felt like an awkward girl. She was a woman being danced by a man who saw the real her, with all her fears and insecurities. And it was the most incredible feeling of her life. She forgot that they were in the middle of a crowd, about her awkwardness, about her past. In that moment, there were only the two of them. When the music ended, he gently led her to the side. Emotions overwhelmed Alara. She felt happy, but at the same time, she realized that this new life, this new world that Jack had shown her, could be as fragile as she herself was. And her biggest fear was that she might ruin everything. She again felt unworthy of it, that she wasn't good enough. And this despair, this deep fear, began to consume her again. She looked at Jack, at his eyes, full of tenderness, and suddenly thought, what if he finds out what I'm really like? This would become her main obstacle. The night after the fair was a sleepless one for Alara. Her heart, which had just been singing with happiness, was now squeezed with anxiety. Her insecurity, which had temporarily retreated under the onslaught of new emotions, returned with double the force. She sat on her old, creaky bed and tried to understand why she felt so small and insignificant again. Jack seemed perfect, kind, strong, patient. And she, with her broken life and lack of experience, felt unworthy of his attention. This thought, like a poison, slowly corrupted all the beautiful things they were building. The next day, when Jack came over to continue working on the house, Alara greeted him with a strange smile. She was withdrawn, spoke little, and her enthusiasm, which had so delighted Jack, had vanished. He immediately noticed the change, but didn't push. He just worked, quietly, giving her the space to come around on her own. Alara, in turn, tried to help, but everything she touched went wrong. She dropped a can of paint, cut herself on a sharp edge of wood, and then stumbled, almost falling off the ladder. Jack was instantly by her side, supporting her. Jack, full of genuine concern, Alara, what's wrong? You look like you're 20 again. She pulled away from him, feeling tears welling up in her eyes again. Alara, a tight whisper, I'm sorry, Jack. I can't be like you. I don't know how to do anything. I'm just causing problems. Jack squeezed her hands in his. Jack firmly but gently, Alara, you're not causing problems. You're just learning. We all go through this. Alara, pulling her hands away, no. You don't understand. You were born here, you know this world. But I'm an outsider. I'm not right for you. I don't know how to be with a man like you. I don't even know how to kiss you. Jack slowly stepped back, his face unreadable. Jack, a pause, Alara, I thought we'd already talked about this. It doesn't matter. Alara, her voice rising with frustration, it does. It does when I see the way you look at me, and I don't know what to do in return. I'm afraid I'll ruin everything. I'm afraid you'll see what I'm really like, broken, awkward, pathetic. In that moment, she felt overwhelmed with despair, as if all the fears she had accumulated over the years were bursting out. Alara, her voice breaking, I thought I could start over, but I just brought my old problems here. I'm not worthy of you. Jack stood in silence, his gaze thoughtful. She expected him to turn around and leave, that he would finally see how unsuitable she was for this simple, real world. But instead, he walked toward her, his movements slow and cautious, as if approaching a frightened animal. He placed his hands on her shoulders and looked her directly in the eyes. Jack, his voice firm but tender, listen to me, Alara. Your fears don't make you pathetic. They make you human. And you know what? I'm not perfect either. I have my own things I struggle with. But I see you. I see the Alara who decided to drop everything and start a new life. Who wasn't afraid to move into a house that was falling apart. Who is learning to hold a hammer and not give up. I see you. And I don't care that you don't know how to kiss. I don't want to kiss an experienced woman. I want to kiss you. The one who is standing in front of me now. The one who is afraid, but still here. This is the beginning. This is what's most important. He took a step closer, and she didn't retreat. He leaned in and gently, with incredible care, touched his lips to hers. It wasn't a passionate kiss from the movies. It was a soft, almost weightless, but incredibly sincere and deep kiss. A kiss that said, I'm here. I'm with you. We'll get through this. It was a kiss that shattered her despair and filled her soul with a new light. Alara felt her body relax, and her heart, at last, found peace. In that moment, she understood that her brokenness wasn't a flaw, but a part of her story, and that with this man, she could be herself, without fear or judgment. It was her moment of clarity. Jack's kiss was not just a touch, but a catalyst. It seemed to erase all her old fears and doubts, replacing them with a new feeling: faith. Faith in herself, faith in him, and in their future. Ilara realized that her brokenness wasn't a weakness, but a part of her personality that Jack had accepted and loved. She no longer felt like an awkward girl, but a woman capable of loving and being loved. Her awakening was complete and final. They spent the rest of the evening sitting on the porch, talking. Ilara told him everything, about her reclusiveness, about how she had felt invisible in the big city, about her fears, and about how she hadn't believed she could ever be happy. Jack listened without interrupting, just holding her hand. Jack, after a long pause, "I love you so much." His words sounded not like an end, but like the beginning of something new, something real. The next day, Ilara woke up with a feeling of lightness she hadn't experienced in years. The house repairs, which had seemed like an impossible burden yesterday, were now a joint project filled with joy. They worked together, laughing, joking, and every hammer blow, every nailed board felt like a symbol of their strengthening relationship. The house she had wanted to sell had now become their shared home, their sanctuary. They decided to host a small party to celebrate the end of the renovations. They invited the neighbors, the very ones Ilara had met at the fair. People came, bringing pies, cookies, and a lot of lively chatter. The house filled with life, laughter, and music. Ilara, who had previously avoided noisy gatherings, now felt comfortable, freely socializing with her new friends. She no longer hid, no longer feared being exposed, because Jack had taught her that she had nothing to hide. The culmination of the evening was Jack's speech. He raised his glass, drawing everyone's attention. "Jack," his eyes shining, "friends, I'd like to raise this toast to Ilara. She came here to start a new life, and I think she has succeeded. She is the bravest and strongest woman I have ever met. And I am incredibly happy that she has become a part of my life." Ilara felt tears welling up in her eyes. She, who had always considered herself weak, suddenly heard herself called strong. This was the inspiration she had been searching for her whole life. Jack turning to her, and one more thing. He got down on one knee. In his hand was a small, antique box. "Jack, sincerely, Ilara Reed, I know our story is just beginning, but I want it to last forever. Will you marry me?" Ilara, unable to hold back her emotions, nodded, and then, forgetting the audience, threw her arms around his neck. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. It wasn't just a kiss, it was the end of her internal struggle, and, at the same time, the beginning of a new, happy life. Her journey from never been kissed to getting married was short but eventful, and she realized that it's not experience that makes you whole, but the willingness to open up, to trust, and to love. Her rebirth was complete. The guests applauded and congratulated them. Ilara, holding Jack's hand, looked around her new home, filled with new friends, and realized she had found not just a house, but a family. She felt inspired and full of hope. Her story was just beginning, but she already knew it would be a happy one. Their love, which began with a simple and gentle kiss, became a symbol that defined meaning. You don't need grand words or great deeds. It is enough to just be yourself, and by your side will be someone who sees strength in your weakness and sincerity in your awkwardness. And they will start everything from the very beginning.